I started taking Chinese and got really into it, not just the language, but a lot of the film and literature as well. I ended up doing my master's thesis on Wong Kar-wai cinema and Chinese cinema in general. So not just Hong Kong cinema, but mainland China, Zhang Yimou, Chen Kaige, also Taiwan, like Hou Xiangxian, those kind of guys. So at that time, it was a very cultural thing. It was language, it was into the film, literature, history, but also philosophy. The first class I took in Chinese philosophy was really cool. I was, Taoism and Confucianism and Shunzi and all these guys, right? Zhuangzi, Laozi, and those kind of things, right? And I guess it clicked with me, especially some of the Taoist philosophy stuff. It made a lot of sense. I liked it. I found it a nice, interesting way of thinking in life. And then I got more into it and thought about the opportunities in the future if you speak Chinese and what was happening in the economy, that I was sure it would lead to something. I wasn't sure what at that time. Initially it was media, because I was studying film. So after, during my fourth year of college, during senior year of college, I studied abroad in Harbin and Beijing. Harbin, this was in 1998. Harbin 工业大学.
It's a good university.
Yeah, it's a good school. It's a very good school. I guess it's kind of the MIT of China or something. So they say. And it was a crazy experience.
Crazy, huh?
Yeah, well, at that time I was 20 years old. I hadn't even turned 21 yet, and
Not even legal drinking age in the US.
Yeah, I couldn't drink yet, and then I show up in Harbin, and everyone's just drinking Harbin Pijiu for lunch every day. Kids, a little one is fine, right? Just normal. It was cheaper than water. Buying beer at that time, a bottle of beer was cheaper than buying a bottle of water. It was like it's like 1.5 for like a big bottle of Harbin Pijiu, and a bottle of like this would have been like 5 or 6 or something like that. It was so it was when I took the airplane there with some other students, we stayed one night in Narita in Tokyo, and that was my first time in Asia. So one night in Japan, I'm like, wow, everything's amazing, it's so modern, and all those things. And then we show up in Beijing in the fog and the haze, we couldn't even see out the hotel window. So, oh my God, I'm gonna be here for 6 months.
It was like that back then already?
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't know.
Yes, it was. And then we took a train for 14 or 15 hours all the way up to Harbin. They didn't have the high-speed train yet. And that was when we signed the contract not to speak English for the next, basically, 3 months. Right? And that was when it really started. Right? The learning the Chinese and living in the dorms. My roommate was from Baoji, outside of Xi'an. Baoji. Yeah. And obviously don't speak a word of English. And we just had to speak Chinese. There was no option, right? Only 20 foreign students in the program. If you get caught speaking Chinese 3 times, they send you home and you lose your tuition. So it was a really hardcore program. It's called the CET program. Maybe some of you guys know about it. A lot of those guys that were in that program now are all doing pretty interesting jobs in China. Some work for the CIA, some have their own companies. It's very, people were really hardcore about the China studies in that program. And then I went to Beijing for 4 months. So Harbin for 2 months, Beijing for 4 months. And it was in Beijing when I started eating jianbing all the time, right, for the most part. And
that's when you fell in love with that food?
Yes.
Is that back then that the idea of opening a jianbing shop already started to brew in your mind?
No, not yet. Basically, after graduating from doing my bachelor's degree and graduating in Brandeis, I went to do graduate school at Columbia for Asian studies, and that's when I took a couple of business school classes, and we had to do a business plan for something, anything we wanted, just to plan out, learning how to do discounted cash flow models and things like that. And that's when I came up with the idea of doing. It was called Goldberg's Chinese Crepes at that time. It wasn't called Mr.Bing. And that was supposed to be a chain of street carts around New York City selling jianbing, and to expand to Boston, San Francisco. It was a US-based thing, like hot dog carts. That was the original idea. It was just a plan on paper. It was just an academic project. and then but I wasn't actually ready to do it yet. Luge is like a winter sport where you.
I googled the picture. I
You
googled the
see
picture
this?
before I came here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I really want to show the picture.
So that was my job for 3 years, part-time, while I was in Colombia.
Representing Israel.
Representing it. That was the first, I set up the Israel Luge Federation.
Is it difficult to do that?
Yeah, it looks easy, you just fly there.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I want to say that.
Yeah, it is easy. If you just fly there and go down, you can do that. Then you can fly out of the track. Yeah, which is not fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you've done a lot of things in your life, like this and that. And...
Yeah, it was when I was young. The whole point was after graduating from college and even from grad school in Columbia. But yeah, I wasn't really ready to work yet. I kind of wanted to travel. I was studying Chinese, doing luge, trying to qualify for the Olympics. And then I got this job with NBC Television in the Page program. Have you guys ever seen a TV show called 30 Rock?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know the guy named Kenneth, the character Kenneth, who wears the NBC, so he gives tours of the TV studios and he's like the junior intern basically.
Okay.
So that was my first job after Columbia. It was a media job.
Okay.
So I studied film and TV. I was giving tours of Rockefeller Center in New York, English and in Chinese as well, learning a lot about TV and media. And then CNBC gave me sort of like a rotation at the New York Stock Exchange, working on the trading floor, handing scripts to the presenters, helping them with the TV news, the post-market wrap of from trading.
Did you write the scripts or?
No, not yet. Not at that time. I was just basically the junior guy. I was getting pizza for them, and helping, just getting coffee and pizzas and helping them with little things.
Okay.
Some of the TV producing sort of aspects of like the labels on the TV screen and like the producing things like that. Then they hired me full time. Because I was always talking about Asia stories, but at that time Enron was like the biggest thing, U.S. sort of corporate corruption sort of things. But they moved me to Singapore, and I became a junior producer at CNBC Asia. Did that for a little while, and then I got hired as a sports reporter to go on air for a bit with Channel News Asia Media Corp, which is a Singaporean TV network. Covered the 2004 Olympics for Athens. I did a lot of international sports coverage, and basically did TV for 3 years full time until I was 27 years old, 27, 28.
Okay.
And when I was in Singapore, I started meeting a lot of finance people, getting interested in the markets, and basically wanted to make a lot more money. And with no finance experience, really, just a lot of hunger, a lot of passion, a lot of motivation in meeting people, and using Chinese, I guess. I got a job at Macquarie Bank, becoming an equity sales trader in Taipei, and then they moved me there in 2005. So I started there, first time in finance, learning how to trade the markets, and had some really good colleagues, covering hedge funds, things like that. And did that for a couple of years, and they moved me to Hong Kong for a more regional sort of sales kind of job, doing a little bit of electronic trading, EMA, algorithmic trading sales, and then joined SocGen for 4 years as a hybrid sales and sales trading. And then about 2 years ago, while working at SocGen, is when the Mr.Bing idea came back. The jianbing idea came back when I was in Beijing for a weekend. And that's when the whole idea started to percolate, to really do it in Hong Kong. And I was balancing two jobs, basically. Doing my sales trading job at SocGen, and then during lunch and after work and on the weekends doing Mr.Bing.
Yeah.
So it was crazy.
It's very challenging, right?
Yeah, very, very challenging. We opened in December, and I was still working at SocGen all the way until April of this year. So there was a 4 month
Did your
overlap.
colleagues know that you were doing this?
Yeah, people knew.
And they're supportive?
They were.
To a point.
To a point. Colleagues, everyone supported. Bosses is a different question. Bosses is a different question. Yeah, as long as they knew that it was being run by other people, and I was doing my job and generating my revenue and calling my clients, it was okay.
Yeah.
But when it started getting, a lot busier, then it was some questions, right? Some questions, what do you want to do? Right? So at that time, we were getting a lot of attention, I guess, for what we were doing. The first ones to open a jianbing shop in Hong Kong or outside China. So it was shown on TV a lot in the Middle East and Africa and Europe. So then we started getting emails, people asking for franchise requests to open Mr.Bing in Ghana, and then Djibouti, and then Egypt. Yeah, and Oman and Yemen, and all these places, and some Europe and UK as well. But I was really shocked. I was like, what's happening? And why? And then there's also a lot of Chinese infrastructure projects going on there, right? There's actually these towns of thousands of Chinese living in these countries doing stuff. So
are you used to this new kind of lifestyle of being a shop owner instead of a trader?
It's still an adjustment.
Still?
Yeah.
After a year?
Well, but I left the bank only 7 or 8 months ago.
Okay.
April. So it's I think, as I was telling you when we were talking, that when you're working in the bank, when you're working for a big company, you have a lot of support. When you knock off work, you can go home and have dinner with your friends. You don't have to worry. Weekends is yours. Right? You don't have to think about work if you don't want to. With this, it's always on your mind all the time. And then you also have, in the company, you have a lot of people around you. A lot of camaraderie. You're surrounded by people all the time. And there's events, there's Christmas parties, there's client events and internal corporate events, and there's just lots of stuff
going on.
A lot of stuff going on. When you become an entrepreneur, it can be very lonely. You have your staff and you have a lot of people around you, but it's customers, but it's your business, and it's just you, really, that's trying to manage everything, drive everything, and keep people motivated. You're not. They're not your colleagues anymore. They work for you, and it's
different, right?
Yeah, it's different. It's very different. Plus, you're in a little. For us, I'm in this little Mr.Bing shop. Upstairs or downstairs, there's one child. Yeah, it's a small little office downstairs, but we're sitting in a very nice big trading floor with a pantry and everything. It's a big change. It's a big change. Yeah, someone drew this and put it on Weibo, and it's there's 5 of them. It's a whole series of story. But the other.
Oh, nice story.
And I have no idea who this is.
They actually put all the recipe on it as well, different flavor. Wow.
Yeah.
So it's a free marketing for you.
Yeah. We invited her to come to the shop actually, and we had them print large ones. They're in our store now, out of there. But those, that's really cool.
Yeah,
wow.
I can imagine.
Yeah, it's a nice feeling. It's a nice feeling.
Do you have any advice for the restaurant owners and those who are planning to open restaurants?
Wow. Yeah. Be prepared.
Just
be prepared.
more specific.
You really have to have good people working for you. You really have to have people who know what they're doing. That's what, for someone like me that didn't come from a restaurant background, it was very important for me to hire. Our senior operations manager comes from the McDonald's operations, and that really helped a lot. And then our consultant, consultants can be helpful, sometimes not. You have to be careful about who you choose. But yeah, know your numbers, understand the business. Location is everything. Really, you have to understand who's your target audience. And just be prepared. Be prepared. Don't quit your day job right away.